Hi, this is Damien from AtHope, and I'm an axiological atheist, and we're going to start the meeting.
Okay. I think we should still have introductions because a couple people are new. I'll start. My name is Penny, and I've been with the group for several years now. I'm one of the co-organizers, and I really...
chair.
Oh, I just sit right there.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Riz. There's a chair there. There is one down here.
And I really like this group because we really talk about stuff. It isn't just that we go out and have a lunch together, although we do, but we bring things to talk about. You don't have to bring things, but you know, you're free to question whoever's turn it is about what they're reading or comment on it or whatever. And so I'm just here to kind of keep the flow going. So how about we start with you? Introduce yourself and why are you here?
My name's Rich. I've been an atheist for...
Go ahead.
I've been an atheist for a little while, been a long-time skeptic, and so I've just been kind of honing my ideals and my worldview. And I saw this on meetups, and it looked like a great place to come talk to people, get some diverse opinions and perspectives on the world, and have a good drink and enjoy the company of intelligent folks.
Well, you're in the right place for that. Okay. Damien?
My name is Damien, and I'm an axiological atheist. And I've been an atheist for over 7 years. And I'm here because I like to talk about ideas, and Wendy's here, and how can I not pass up that opportunity? But I like the people, and I like the intelligence, and so that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
My name is Alan. You've heard me say before, some of you, that I am a tentative atheist only because I'm actually an atheist, but since I don't believe any of us can know exactly the nature of the universe, I have to say I'm tentative.
Oh.
And I vow I'll get a haircut before you see me again.
Bradley?
I'm Bradley. I've been going to meetings like this for, I don't know, three or 4 years.
Yeah, at
Something
least.
like that. And I was, I've been an atheist for quite a while longer than that. I just decided to go to meetings.
And embrace the community.
Yeah.
Because you're involved in a lot of other groups like ours. Well, nothing's like ours. Sort of similar to ours. Thank you.
I'm Travis, and I'm trying to figure out what my intrinsic value is so I know which classification I fall in.
Well, there's a pregnant pause. Like, whoa, intrinsic value. We are not a therapy
We're
group.
reading that book to help you figure it out.
Well, I'm waiting for Damien's book to come out so I can figure out, since this is a topic on axiology, and that's his book.
Okay. So you don't really say I'm an atheist?
I don't say I'm an atheist because I don't know enough about it, really.
Okay.
I can say I'm not a theist or a deist anymore.
Okay.
Am I a pantheist or a
No, I see.
pantheist?
So you're on the journey.
I'm on the journey.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to
Any of
care
us,
now because,
yeah.
I mean, I need to know how this works.
Yes.
To say whether I fit in.
Good. All right. Iris?
I've been coming to this group, 4 years, I think? And I go to some of the others here and there. I was a Reformed Christian, which is really different, and left it about 7 years ago. But I was deep into it for about 20-some years. Reformed Presbyterian, like Calvinism.
And she went on a journey like you're on, Travis.
Okay.
So,
And my husband's still a Calvinist.
yes. And our Wendy is our founder.
Yay, Wendy!
Yay!
Enough said. You guys know me. Everybody here knows me.
Not me.
Oh, that's right.
You have to
You're
talk.
Joanne, right. Okay. I founded this group in 6 years ago now. And then just more people started coming, and now sometimes we don't have enough room for everybody, and so it's really grown, and it's just because I want people to talk about free thought, and I am an atheist. It was a journey for me. It took me a long time to really just realize that's where I am, and so I was raised Catholic. I was involved in a fundamental Christian group for a number of years. And reading the Bible, actually, I never read the Bible as a Catholic. I just didn't have to.
We were told what to think, yeah.
Yeah, it's the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, Gary, you know.
You didn't need it to know anymore.
So when I did read the Bible after when I became a fundamentalist Christian, I was like, wow. So many questions started floating around in my mind, and the doubt started moving in, and that was all it took.
And specifically, you were upset about the way churches treat women.
Treated women.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a theme with a lot of women who
Yeah.
take the journey toward atheism.
What about like Unitarian Universalism?
I never went to that, but I mean, I don't, as long as women are treated like equals, I don't have a problem, but I found that the Catholic Church and the fundamentalists, and those were the only two Christian.
Wow, that's what they claim.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the reason I don't want to be associated with them, because they won't broaden their definition.
Exactly.
Well, when I met David, he was a Unitarian, so he might be able to inform you about
Well, I've
that.
been a Unitarian for 13 years.
You have, was, oh, okay,
Yeah, I'm
all
no
right.
longer, but,
Okay,
I mean, it's a mix. There's
You're on your
atheists,
journey.
agnostics, there's some Christians, there's some secular Jews, so it's a
Okay.
Yeah,
mix.
yeah.
okay,
So,
yes.
I'm Renee.
Renee?
Still today.
Who might you be? AKA.
I'm sure on the meetup. So I'm fifth generation raised as a Jehovah's Witness. I'm in the closet on my non-belief. Mostly for the purpose of trying to figure out how to get my kids out, since I did a really good job raising them to be sixth generation. And
does anybody want to order food, or you want me to wait a little bit? Wait just a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. What's the soup today? It's chicken and rice and turkey noodle soup.
so, about a year and a half ago, I realized that I would explain to somebody, a Bible book, condensed version, and realized, oh my God, this is mythology. And then it just kind of all fell apart from there, and joined a support group online for other JWs, and
Is this your coming out today?
I'm not out. No.
With us,
With a
I mean,
Oh, I've
with
been here
us?
before.
Oh, you have, okay, I wasn't
I've
here.
been a couple of times.
I
Okay.
don't think you were here, Penny.
No,
The first time I was here, you were here.
okay.
And we were out.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
and you were sitting down at the end of this table.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. So, I've rearranged my life a little bit so that I have a little bit more freedom. But,
Are you married to a Jehovah's
I'm
Witness?
recently separated.
Okay.
So.
Welcome, again.
I'm Joanne. I was raised Church of the Brethren. It is a pacifist religion.
Okay, kind of like a
Yeah, Mennonite. Yeah, but I went to church in Covington. When we first came here, my folks were from Kansas City, and it's more active Atheist.
So are they a breakaway group from the Lutheran?
I have no idea.
Because I think some of those Hutterites and things were actually breakaway.
Yeah. So, but it was pacifist, I knew that about it. And when I was young, my mom became quite ill and couldn't drive all the way to Covington for church. So I started going to the Presbyterian church with the next door neighbors. And I went there through high school and then quit. And then started exploring on my own when I discovered the mention of reincarnation. And I went, what's that? And have been searching ever since. I decided to become Catholic for a while. And because I really resonated with the ceremonial aspects of it. But other than that, and then the priest that I really liked left, so I became disenchanted again and then continued my search. I found the Unitarian Universalist Church in Cheyenne, where I lived, and I went, oh my God, people like me. Which is what everybody said when they first came, being quite a red state. And so I've continued in the UU Church. While I was there, I took a break to go in the Peace Corps and went to Kenya for 5.5 years. Came back and settled back here in Seattle because this is where I was raised. And I had family here. And joined the West Seattle UU Church where I still go. And I'm searching. I am so fascinated with what they're discovering about the universe and universal energy and that type of stuff. And so, actually I was listening, I listened to podcasts to go to sleep. I was listening to Gary Zukav.
Okay, I've got his book, I just started,
Yeah.
I haven't been able to get through it.
Yeah, I was listening to Gary Zukav. I've been listening to him for the last couple of days. And I listen to all kinds of things. Left, right, medium. Don't stay too much on the right. But I have to know how the others...
Just check in once.
Know how the others are doing. So, yeah. So I met Gary when he became treasurer of Seattle Chinese Garden. I did bookkeeping for them. And he said, you might like this group of people.
Oh,
Why don't you come to a meeting?
welcome.
So I'm here.
Good. Gary?
My turn. I'll do the quick version because most of you have heard it, but I was raised Catholic, cradle Catholic. My parents were new converts at the time, shortly after I was born. So, and like they say about converted prostitutes and converted smokers, converted religious people also are right in there, don't know about it. So I was raised in that, went all my life to the nuns in grade school, the brothers in high school, the Jesuits in college, and it wasn't until midlife when I had a nervous breakdown and started wondering what the brain is doing that I first really looked at science. And when I discovered that there were underwater creatures fossilized at the top of the Himalayas, I knew something was wrong.
With what
Because up till then I was still a 6,000 year young earth creationist.
That's insane.
And that was what
Satan put them
took
there
the
to
sand
fool
out of
us.
the sand castle for me.
That's what some people say.
So anyway, that's, and with that, it just pretty much in very short order just totally evaporated. And I haven't looked back. But I'm still trying to work out the psychological repercussions of withdrawal, and like anybody who's quit smoking or drugs or anything else, this one's hard.
Catholic.
Exactly, a recovered Catholic, and this is
I've been there.
hard withdrawal, so that's what keeps me at this table, is your fellowship.
So how many of us were Catholics?
That sometime.
Oh my goodness. Okay, David.
Well, I'm Penny's husband, as some of you, most of you know. And religion never really took with me. I remember as a child praying, and when the prayers didn't happen and people told me God works in mysterious ways, I thought, that doesn't work for me. I mean, you either pray and get something or it's not working.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion. So,
I agree with that one.
by about age 10, I got kicked out of Sunday school at age 13 for being irreverent, and I just never went back. But it just never seemed to me like it made any sense, and it still doesn't. Nonetheless, I'm the president of the Greater Seattle chapter of Americans United for Separation of Church and State, and I do advocate on behalf of religious people who believe in separation of church and state, and we're not an anti-religious organization. We're an organization, I guess you could say, that believes that religious dogma should not become law, which is happening now. So we get involved in all kinds of issues, which I can talk about at some other time. But anyway, that's a short version of why I'm here.
Why isn't there a meetup?
What's that?
Why isn't there a meetup for Separation Church State?
There-
Well, I just came from
well-
California, and we every month there's a meetup for Separation
Believe it or
Church and
not,
State.
there was one for a while, but it was not
Nobody
well
ever showed.
attended.
But we do have meetings.
Oh, you have meetings?
We have chapter meetings, yeah.
So there's just too much competition.
There's other meetings?
Yeah,
We
you
have
know,
chapter
we need to
meetings.
get you on our list. I'll talk to you in a minute. But
All right.
you're
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have meetings.
I was
but
involved.
we're
I
not
paid dues and everything.
Meetup meetings, yeah. Oh, you were?
Get
Yeah.
to renew.
I'm still paying for the rest of the year.
I want you.
All right. I'll talk to you later because I'm membership chair and secretary.
Cool.
So, Jerry.
Okay, well, like you already, I gave my speech many times, so I'll keep it short. So, I was also a brainwashed Catholic, former brainwashed Catholic, so it took many years of recovering, but I've been active in the group for many years, almost 25 now. So anyway, I'm here today to offer a free service for anyone who'd like me to fix their buddy. At your service.
Yeah, that's good.
He's recording this. I hope you don't get,
He knows.
the feds don't come after you.
I tell everybody, if they don't come after me and all the stuff that I say, and my face is on, everyone's good.
So, how many of us have something to share today?
I do.
1, 2, 3, 4. And Travis, don't you?
What's that?
You have something to share because those of us who brought something to share get to go first.
I wanted to ask the experts on this one, and that's Damien, I guess.
Okay.
What after you? What?
Well, let's start with Rich then.
Okay,
Oh,
one second, I just need to ask Damien something. Now, Iris and Renee might be concerned with the recording, so what?
Well, no, I don't tell anyone. All the recordings always are listed under is HARP, Humanism, Atheism, Rationalism, Philosophy, which is my meetup.
I just don't want my
So
face on it.
what I'm just
Yeah,
saying
I
is
don't
that
either.
nobody understands anything but they see my face. That's it, and they
Okay,
just hear people
okay.
but
talk.
they hear the story.
But they can't
Yeah,
tell.
but
who's-
who knows?
They can't help.
Never-
And anyways,
I'm not worried.
all people know. I don't even tell what medium I'm going. I just say my meetup,
Right.
and I'm in Seattle.
Okay.
So if they go to my page, it has my stuff.
Right.
So it doesn't.
So don't even be paid about it.
And anyways, right now.
If my
once
family
my-
can get yours one side, I'll be thrilled.
No. True. But
They just stumbled on it.
so right now the videos that I've done 13 of them, and there's 35 to 70 people. Most of them are actually from other countries, not even the United States. So that watch, because I have friends. I have about 5,000 friends on Facebook, and I have a lot of people that from other countries. That's what actually inspired me to do it in the beginning, was because people, like my friend from Poland says that we don't have any meetups at all, ever.
Well, they probably don't have a lot of skepticism. It's a very Catholic country.
Well, it could be true too, but I'm just saying. But
Underground.
he was just saying that.
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, you go to this stuff all the time, and I never get to hear
Oh,
anything." And
I see.
I was like, "Man, someone should do that. Do something about that." I thought,
Okay.
"Oh, I'm somebody."
Yeah,
All right,
that's great.
so-
Yeah, we just have.
Can we start now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Rich.
So this is more of an announcement than a book
Okay,
report,
that's all right.
even though I've been reading several books. A little bit of a background. I'd say probably a year to a year and a half ago, I really started to work on going out and really finding information, different thinkers, different ideas on specific aspects of free thought. So really, what is atheism? What are the different tenets of it? What's agnosticism, et cetera, et cetera. And what I found that, especially online, there's some great websites, so a lot of good podcasts, lots of good information, and that community seems to be growing. But because of the nature of websites, they tend to have a more narrow focus, which is fine, and because we only have 24 hours in a day, it makes it easier to get your message across. But what I've found and what I really admire in what I would call the sort of the free thought community, let's just say that, is not simply just having a belief system, but over and over I see this desire for new knowledge, to go beyond, to have these conversations, to seek out ideas that may challenge our own. And it's that thirst that sort of drives the romantic in me. And so over the last couple of months I started thinking, well, what could I bring to the table that might be of a benefit to the community? And some say, a wild child was raised by wolves. I was actually raised by a pack of wild librarians. And true story. Absolutely. I have been blessed in that sense. So what I thought might be a valuable project is to start an online library to compile lists of books, pamphlets, historical events, a who's who of thinkers within the community, Daniel Dennett and Richard Dawkins, with kind of painting it with a broad brush. So and everything from Enlightenment thinkers to firebrands like Christopher Hitchens. And so a little over a month ago, I got in contact with Wendy, and I ran this by her, and she was all for the idea. And so right now, I'm developing a website that will be called the Free Thought Library, and it will be a free online resource that people can come and visit and say, hey, what's the newest literature out there? What's Neil deGrasse Tyson up to? What's he putting out?
Great.
And so that's now in its infancy, and I'm just incredibly excited to be able to just kind of bring something out. And so what I would like to do is put up sort of a new forum post on our website and get people's input, get their ideas. It seems like everyone is reading something that would certainly fall under that umbrella, and that's where it stands.
So you're going to send out an announcement as to how we communicate and what you want specifically, because it sounds like that's what we do here.
Yeah.
So, but there are a lot of people who aren't coming all the time are also reading, and so you're trying to capture all of that.
Exactly.
Okay.
As well as people who are in, say, Poland, and they may not have the ability to go out and meet 10, 20 other people over a beer and have these conversations, but they may have access to Amazon. They can download something off Kindle. And
excuse me, but how would that work if you're a forum under us and we're a meetup? Somebody in Poland would have to be part of our meetup to see it, wouldn't they?
It would be separate. It would be its own kind of standalone thing.
So it's not a forum of urban free thought.
What I was saying, I should have been more specific. Since I have this population of people who are aware of these issues and who I'm sure have some great ideas and input, I was just saying that this is just a post I would like to put up on the Auburn
Oh, I
Free
see.
Thought site, and then
Right.
people can say, oh,
To
this
gather information for your
Exactly.
independent website.
So the,
Oh, okay.
the
What's the
electronic
website
equivalent-
name?
The Free Thought Library.
Dot
Uh,
something.
Dot wix backslash blah blah blah.
Oh,
that,
that's-
the whole title is still in,
But it's
in development.
it's being formed now.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Well, when it's formed, if you want, I have a large presence on Facebook, and I'm actually a moderator for about 5 groups, and probably have about, I would say, 60,000 people I could get stuff to.
That would be
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
I'm willing
And maybe
to-
you could get information from them and then pass it along to him through our meetup, so they don't all have to be meetup members.
Right, that's what I was saying. I mean,
Good.
I can post your link and information about it, and then allow them to decide if they want to get involved.
That sounds
Cool.
great.
Once you have information to give me.
Sure.
Well, it sounds interesting. Good.
I'm jazzed. So.
Good. Who else, you had something, Alan?
You probably won't believe this, but this will actually be short.
Prove it.
Following on something that Travis said during his introduction, I want to say something more about myself. I've been into science since my first, probably 4th grade chemistry set. I take a couple of professional journals and a dozen lay science magazines, and I can't possibly keep up with them all, but I'm curious about the way the world works. We need to know how the universe works, and we're at baby steps with that. That's why I call myself a tentative atheist.
Well,
Okay.
I'm an
And
engineer.
what I want to do is ask,
I'm an engineer, so I am a applied scientist.
Okay.
So I come from that background.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to ask, well, once in a while, when I feel up to it, when religious recruiters come to the door, I will sometimes say, sure, I'll come and sit on the front porch and visit with you. And what I often ask them is, what evidence do you find that there is a God or a godlike higher power?
They're going, oh, no.
That opens the door.
And so, what I'm interested in hearing from the rest of you is, what have you heard people contend, submit as presumed evidence? Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have an answer?
I feel it in my heart.
I feel it in my heart.
Well, all you have to say is, I feel in my heart that there ain't one.
I've heard some family members say, well, what else would cause all this? You know, in other words, there has to be a God because I can't explain it myself and I'm not about to believe
Well,
some
you should
scientist.
just start and say, there's a physical law called the law of the conservation of energy. It's neither created nor destroyed. It's always exists. It's going to continue to exist, and it can change form. You can change energy to matter. That's Einstein's theory of E equals mc squared.
So that's what people might say
That's what I would say.
if you ask.
Yeah,
Anybody
it's
else?
energy.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Anybody else, David?
Our in-laws, the mother of our son's daughter, says that God entered her body. So there's proof for you.
I see.
Another bit of proof that I
She's
I
saying
was so-
psychiatrist.
was that her sister had a baby who had to have a heart operation right away, and she and her mother and sister prayed real hard, and the heart healed up. And so, of course, that was a miracle. Now, the truth is, I saw this science program, and it said the heart is the last thing to be formed on a baby, and it's very common to have this birth defect. And it does oftentimes after birth just mend itself. But they wouldn't have any of that. It's obviously, you know, the proof of a miracle is the miracle. I mean, basically, that's it. There's no real evidence.
Well,
Thank you all for your input. My final comment.
What?
What I respond to people with is that, wait a minute, science has found certain highly, here on the probabilistic universe, anything that can happen eventually will happen. So that disposes of miracles, thank you. But
we know, we have a set of theories about the nature of the universe, and we have yet to discover any evidence, accessible, measurable, testable evidence of anything beyond the entities that we have found thus far. The forces, the fields, the particles, the waves, etc.
Well, there's a,
Does it work?
there's actually a paradox called, RPE paradox. It's Einstein, Rosenberg, and Brodowski. And this is where Deepak Chopra comes from. And I have to sit and think about this one because these three individuals way back in, I don't know what it was, 1920 said, the tenet is, if you can prove that there's something that reacts faster than the speed of light, then you have violated basically the tenets of quantum mechanics. But, and this battle goes on even today, is if you have entangled particles, there are some who claim that you can affect one and instantaneously affect the other.
Oh, yeah.
Which means that you're now violating the fact that there's something moves faster than the speed of light. And the scientists say, well, there's loopholes in it, and there's others who say not. So
It's just there's a non-classical.
In the first place,
Resolve that, yeah.
Alan,
And the other thing is, well, my comment is, those are at subatomic particle levels. What happens at levels, of the human body and stuff like that? I don't know that, because the problem is the equations that work at the atomic level don't work at the level where Newtonian mechanics works. And so Einstein was trying to get the unified field theory. They still don't have it. They've got the weak fields, the nuclear fields, the strong fields, but they still haven't been able to incorporate the magnetic or the gravitational fields. So the theory is not complete.
So my comment would be simply, I am a rationalist, I'm not a skeptic. I use methodological skepticism with rationalism. I do not believe that doubt is required unless doubt is proven to be doubtable. In other words, if you tell me that the planet Pluto is in your pocket, I do not need to reserve doubt. I know you are violating the natural world's ability to be something to be true. And so it doesn't require doubt. So the God concept, first off, does not require doubt. There's nothing to say what a God is. I would be an agnostic with an I, which says that you're not talking reason no more than saying the planet Pluto is in your pocket. I would start with, what is a God? Tell me what you know, and everything you add to that term must be provable, must be reproducible, and must be in the natural world. Otherwise, I don't require to be doubt. So I don't believe in agnosticism. Other people can have that. I'm against it because to me, there's nothing to doubt. There is no such thing as God. Another thing too is people use the word God. God is not a name. It is a title of authority. It is like saying king. So it itself doesn't even know itself and doesn't have a substance to know. Thus, it's like saying I'm going to doubt air or nothing. I mean, it's like doubt something past zero. What does that mean? You're not talking reason.
Okay.
yeah,
Which is
but
why
what I would say,
you don't use a capital G.
Yeah.
Just a minute, let's go in order. You're after David.
what I would say, Alan, is that true believers, religious believers of some kind, some kinds of religion, would say that faith means that you believe in spite of a lack of evidence.
Yes.
And
So
they're
they don't care about your evidence. And they don't care about rationality either. They believe.
No, it's experiential. It's
Yes, it's
experience
experience, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's not intellectual, it's experience.
It's an emotional,
Emotional, yeah.
wanna have
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Okay,
Grounded in
Jerry,
fear. I was just gonna add, and grounded in fear. That's the main.
grounded in
motivation.
fear.
Yes, ignorance and fear.
Yeah.
The fear of dying.
I'm with you.
The fear of
Why
going to
even
hell.
talk about it, really?
We're
Jerry.
still investigating.
Yeah,
Okay, wait.
I think it's Greta Christina, if I may quote her, once said that if you can convince someone that the devil exists, that Satan exists, then you can convince them to do anything.
Yeah,
All based on fear.
yeah, fear and guilt.
Yes.
Oh,
A lot of
Catholic guilt.
Yeah.
Anybody-
all
Control
religions.
mechanisms.
Yeah.
Anybody have any more for Ellen, or shall we move on?
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ellen. Okay, who else has something going in order there?
Well,
Bradley?
I'll just briefly say, there was someone who at a meeting last week brought up a book that I found interesting. I started reading it, got, I don't know, about a chapter or so into it. It's called Cruel Creeds, Virtuous Violence.
Cruel Creeds, Virtuous Violence. Okay,
That's an interesting.
really, what's it about?
Well, I guess it's exploring the relationship between religion and violence, and it starts out with the model of violence and kind of when people feel justified doing violence. And then I haven't gotten to the part where it goes through religions and examines, and it's trying to avoid the pitfalls of just demonizing
Yeah,
religion.
I was gonna say, you have to demonize them to be able to kill them.
Or, well, the book's not trying to demonize religion. It's just trying to give an even-handed account.
You know, that reminds me of a new one that was written by Karen Armstrong, I think.
Fields of Blood.
Fields of Blood, Fields of
I
Blood.
have that one, I haven't read it yet.
And I haven't either, but it has to do with the violence in religion. Fields of Blood.
Valerie Tirico recently wrote a very good column in her blog about the ways that this works.
Valerie Tirico?
Valerie
Yeah,
Tirico,
huh?
which is a name a lot of people are familiar
Yeah.
with now, on what elements there are in the monotheistic religion that that grew out of Iron Age violence and
Oh, yeah.
authority, and how many things about the religion and what it brings forward come out of violence and allow for violence against the peoples that they came in and took over the land or whatever is happening at various times, and how it blesses, how it's constructed in a way to bless this kind of violence.
Well, yeah,
So
I
it's
mean,
very good.
absolutely,
Very
like the
good article
Crusades,
for
you're
those
gonna
who
go
want
right
to
to
read it.
heaven if you
So
get killed.
they believe, let me rephrase that, so they believe the end justifies the means?
Their God said, go in and wipe out all the Amalekites.
He's being
every man,
sarcastic.
woman, and child.
Absolutely,
end of the sword, yeah.
absolutely.
Yes.
You nailed
Yes.
it. And would you put in the minutes how to get a hold of Valerie? Because anybody who isn't getting her blog, you probably would enjoy it. She's
What is it called?
What would you like, please?
I think,
ValerieTarico.com.
I'm trying to remember what her,
How do you like it cooked?
just a second, let me make a note here and then
Medium
I'll.
rare, homemade garlic mashed potatoes.
can I ask you,
potato, rice.
are you all wanting to order?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
let's take a break right now.
Okay.
We'll take
You
a
wanna
break.
order something?
No, I just want water.
Okay.
Thanks.
How about you? I'm coming with more diet. Are you gonna order some food?
Yes, please.
Sure, what would you like, please?
I would like,
Yes.
sorry, I didn't look at it, it was
I
about
can-
time. Why don't you do somebody else and all?
Sure. What would you like?
I'm gonna peek over his shoulder.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, now I know.
I'm happy to see you here.
Okay. How about this?
English muffin with
Yeah, Valerie Tirico.
I got plenty of jam, right?
She's a psychologist. She was raised in a very fundamentalist family,
Yeah.
and
Did
she's
you lettuce,
all
onions, and
about
tomato? Is that
not
okay?
that
No,
anymore. She writes about women's issues
fries
in the
with that?
church history, and
Okay.
she was
Thank
the
you.
first atheist, if not
And
the
water.
only one, to
Thank
be
you.
the council of
You
churches.
fries with the beer?
Okay, she's on, her blog is A Waypoint.
A waypoint, that's it, a waypoint blog.
You're okay.
Or you could like her on Facebook. She also works there.
Yeah.
Orchard salad.
She is fabulous. She is as rigid as any, in her logic, as any philosopher I've ever read,
How about some
or
water
any
for room
theologian, and she's got her theology down pat.
Yeah, she's.
She knows exactly what she's responding to. Oops.
It's your,
Yeah.
it's your turn.
But I forgot, I want to, thank you. I know what I wanted, just not sure what the call, I can't remember what it was called. What I'm looking for is Cobb salad and an order of fries.
Oh, there's a combo. Cobb salad and fries.
keep that balanced.
Ranch with cheese, 1,000 Italian.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who were you talking about? Who were you talking?
Valerie.
Oh, I know.
Now, Damien,
T-A-R-I.
Yeah. So
She's a
I haven't read the book yet, but I already know that there was published 3 articles in a psychology journal about this woman. She wrote a book called Leaving the Fold, and she basically deals with religion as an addiction.
Yes.
And she's a psychotherapist.
are you talking about Valerie or somebody else?
No, it's Madeline Windle.
Yeah, Wendy and I read that together one time.
Oh, you read it?
Leaving the Fold.
Oh,
Remember?
yeah, I read
that.
Oh, that is really good if any
It's a
of you
good
are
book.
on your journey.
I haven't read it. I
Leaving
already
the
have it,
Fold.
but I just haven't
Yeah.
had a chance to read it.
That's one of the first books I read.
Yeah, and it's good. It's quite enlightening.
Never in the fold?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
very good.
Can't leave it if you weren't in it.
I blame him on my atheism.
Good.
Credits me.
Yeah,
Credits
really.
me, yeah. Exactly.
Good
I even
husband.
converted my mother just before she died.
And she wasn't happy about it either.
No, that's not true. She was fine.
Oh, I thought she didn't, in her dotage, she didn't want that.
On April 1st, she did a blog post that's titled Unfettered Religious Freedom really does mean the freedom to do harm.
Yes, yes.
Freedom to discriminate with impunity. It's not just about bigotry and homophobia.
Right.
The right to discriminate in
Right.
public accommodation, to interfere with a religious outsider's family formation, the right to interfere in a religious outsider's dying process. You
Right.
get the idea.
Mary, what was the date on that?
That date was April 1st.
Okay, has everyone
So-
ordered?
Yep.
Oh, okay, let's keep going then. Travis, you have something down there, I know you do.
Well, I haven't had a chance to read it, but I was gonna ask Damien, have you ever heard of this author?
What's it called?
It's called The Nature of Intrinsic Value, Michael J. Zimmerman.
That name sounds familiar. I've not read that book.
Nature.
I'll just.
Oh, well, he's taking notes.
The name again
I know
is
that intrinsic
Michael?
value is one of the aspects of axiology.
Right.
Because axiology has 3 aspects: intrinsic value, extrinsic value, and systemic value.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what does that mean?
What does axiology mean? In Greek, it means basically worth science, or the science of worth, or the science of value. And it's value science is how you do value judgments, and how you also understand things like goodness. Anyone who says they believe in good and you're not using a religious foundation, you're actually using a form of axiology. Everybody. Whether you know it or not. Anytime that you make axiology.
I-O-L-O-G-Y.
So anyways,
Axiology.
and I believe in a specific, because the axiology is just a way of it's a way of understanding art. It's a way of understanding science. It's a way of values in general. It's a very broad thing. I like formal axiology, which is more of a scientific, less philosophy. The scientific one, formal axiology, is the scientific one that basically takes a naturalistic, evolutionary science approach. It believes that religion doesn't deserve to have the right to make morality. It believes philosophy hasn't done morality and it's not doing it right, so it's going to redefine what that is or what value is.
And what
it
did you
also,
call it?
Formal axiology.
Okay.
It's also, some people call it scientific axiology, but it's actually called formal axiology, and it's the only right now type of morality, I would say, that science has actually empirically shown some validation for.
Oh.
It's been around for about 30 years, and for the last 6 years, it's actually had, in 8 countries, they did empirical tests and shown that no matter what your gender, no matter your race, people think in a form of values. I could explain a lot stuff, but the whole point is to understand too that's why it's in formal axiology is it's not humans, animals. It's evolutionary necessity or a benefit to be able to value judge this from that, good from bad. It's
And to cooperate with each other.
Right, cooperate.
See,
Why
it's not
I would
about
do
religion.
something. Why, so
Right.
the reason you do everything, why you pick a good fruit or you're able to know something from it was something that happened because of evolution. It's just like it comes out of it. It's not that evolution knew morality. It's just that having a way of assessing properly, making good judgments, makes you live longer. It improves well-being. It improves group cohesion.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of things happen. So and then in 2000, I think it was 6 or 7. I can't remember exactly, but I have the book, but I can't remember. I'm not good at details. I'm a big picture person. I'm big ideas.
That's all right.
But anyway, so a neurologist decided, well, this sounds good. Let's see if it's in the brain. Not only psychologically, because it was proven psychologically and sociologically, because it's actually a social science where it comes from. So, and they showed it in political stuff. But anyway, so he wanted to know, is it really in the brain? Yes, people behaving that way, but can we actually watch the brain do value? And he actually shows, his book is about how the brain actually processes in value like schemas or structures. That's how the brain processes information.
Can you tell me that book and author?
Yes, hold on. Let me see my Kindle.
And who's the author of Travis on your book?
Michael J. Zimmerman, 2 M's.
Thank you.
Is that consistent with?
I don't know, I'm not an expert in this field. Damien's the guy.
Yeah, Damien's here to tell us.
That's the reason I
That
brought
book
it.
is fascinating.
Because I'm reading this, and this author disagrees with 2 other authors, so I'm just wondering, okay, where do I go from here?
One thing that strikes me is we're able to see how blood and electrons flow in the brain.
Yeah, functional MRIs.
But
So
we don't quite understand how that translates into consciousness yet.
Whenever it comes
Well,
off. That's
no, for some reason I have a lot of books on my thing, and for some reason I'm not seeing that book. I don't know why.
Maybe your whole thing hasn't been actually downloaded to this device, because I've got pieces on different.
Whenever you kept saying
you
axiologist,
could even
when
email
you
me, I'll put it
introduced
in.
yourself, I always thought it meant from the axial
Right.
age.
Okay, so I'll explain that real quick. Axiological atheist is considered to be an argument for atheism. I use it because everything about it is what I am. So if you look up in philosophy, you just put atheism, and you look up at the Journal of Philosophy, it's there as a form of called argument for atheism.
Oh.
Basically, because axiology is a value, you could value judge God. Is God good? In other words, the problem of evil. Well, I'm saying the problem of evil is a axiological problem. So, and the only way to address it is not atheism. So, in other words, there's 3 different ways to approach using axiology depending on where you start. Now, if you start formal axiology, it's automatically atheism. Because formal axiology will start with nature, and then God's an idea. No idea is above a person, because persons real, ideas are not. They don't have any intrinsic value, like you talk about. An idea does not have intrinsic value. Idea only has a systemic value, which means what it produces. So, as far as axiology is concerned, there is no such thing as God. Formal axiology, God would be a non-existent thing. It's not, but formal, not all axiology. Just formal would say. It would, in a sense, it's more agnostic than it is atheism in the fact that it would just say that concept doesn't make sense in the real world. So,
There is an extra for you, okay?
thank you. So, in a sense, to call it atheism is true and kind of, they wouldn't say I am an atheist if they're a formal axiologist, but they would say the God is an idea. The idea is not proven. Ideas do not have any intrinsic worth, have no intrinsic value. They are never above a human. So, but anyways, axiological atheism is an argument for atheism. It's considered to be an anthropocentric argument, which means that human on top. On top of gods, on top of ideas, on top of animals, on top of everything.
Well, that's who made God.
Well, yeah.
That's a good one, Dave.
So it basically says that humans can solve human problems
Yes.
without gods, but it also says even if there is gods, they're not worth being valued above a human.
Yeah.
So it doesn't care whether you say a god's are real or not. They go, yeah, I'm not worshiping it.
But this is the argument that goes on about our Constitution and our founders. Christians have convinced themselves that it's a religious document, and the truth really is that the founders, put man above
Right.
religion, and they put man
Right.
above, all these people are trying to make this argument of religious freedom. They don't get what the founders really created, which was, it's on, the government is above the religion,
Right.
period.
Secular.
Secular,
Right.
and they don't get that.
Well,
But what you were just saying.
Right, so axiological atheism is a form of secularism and
Yes,
humanism.
yes.
In the fact that it rejects anything supernatural. It rejects any idea that's not in the natural world, period.
That's the
So
way I-
don't even talk about karma or anything. It rejects everything
Right.
that's not
No
in the natural world.
spirituality, no-
It's not in the natural world. It's not existent. You're talking nonsense to,
Right.
or it's not relevant above what is natural.
Yeah.
You know, I was just reading thoughts from Freedom from Religion Foundation this
Yeah.
morning. It was about Clarence Darrow. And I think what he said about God sums it all up in a very short way. He says, I don't believe in God because I don't believe in Mother Goose. And to me, that's the beginning and end of it.
Yeah.
That's as good an argument as I ever heard.
Exactly.
Well, Star Trek's better than the Bible, so I don't know. More believable.
Okay, who's next? Okay, Travis, are you done?
Well, I
Did
was
you want to
gonna
say
ask-
anything more?
You know, I haven't gotten through this, but I actually went online and found a Wikipedia article on intrinsic value. And it would list like humanism, their intrinsic value is to flourish.
To
And
flourish?
To flourish,
Uh-huh.
and hedonism is pleasure. And, you know, it goes down this list. Is that an oversimplification, or?
Well, first off, anything that you can list in a phrase
Yeah.
is an oversimplification of
Well, that's what I
axiology. Axiology is massively complicated. I talk a lot of times in trying to make it.
Trying to make something complicated.
Yeah, I mean, you read it. I mean, like I remember one time I tried to find a quote, and I just like 4 or 5 pages. I'm like, I don't know where to stop. There's no like beginning and end to where it would make sense to stop. You just gotta like.
You gotta find a model.
You gotta be like me, have a big picture, read it, and just give somebody cliff notes
Does
forget
anybody
it.
else have an answer to Travis?
Well, I have another question.
Okay.
Since it is of that nature, how do you teach children then?
Well-
By example only?
Well, I guess I would always start with the most simple and most important things, because once you go back to intrinsic value about axiology, the axiology would care what's the most important thing to get across. Most important thing across, humans have value. Humans matter. So in other words, like if I was to teach someone atheism through an axiology only lens, it would be that you should value people, you don't need to value religion. You should believe in people, you shouldn't believe
And you
in
should
religion.
do it without any hope of being rewarded in the end. Yeah, you do it because it's the right thing to do, because the animals did it before you did. You know what I mean? That whole philosophy flies in the face of what we have to deal with today in our country and our politics. Because it has to do with humans are intrinsically good. And when you think about the contrast of most of the Christian religions,
Well, they assume man is
people
evil.
are evil.
Yeah,
And
we're
you
sick.
know, you
There's a
gotta
song
be
out.
baptized
The Hozier
or.
says, they're telling us we're sick.
Right, so,
Really, but that's the
axiology
conflict
doesn't
that's
say that
going on
humans
in our
are
country.
good, like what you said.
That
What they would say is
basic-
they're worthy. They have worth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Worth and good is a different thing.
And
Good
if
is a
you're on
behavior.
welfare, you have no
worth
worth.
is a value.
And if
Worth
you have
is-
no money, you
so
have
that-
no
So
worth.
it's saying that all humans have worth.
Yeah.
It's a difference than.
See,
Just like people say, like, what if someone's a
the core of
killer?
our politics.
So if someone's a killer, how is Wendy different than a killer? Well, you would assess Wendy's intrinsic value as she's human. She has worth. A killer is a human, they have worth. They don't lose human value. They don't become a dog. Their behavior, though, extrinsically, is how you relate to the world. Wendy's
So good
extrinsic.
and bad is extrinsic.
Extrinsic. Well, no, but it depends on what you're trying to quantify.
Okay.
But the person, in other words, the axiology wouldn't say it's a bad person just because they're a killer. They would say the killer's behavior extrinsically. But then there's another thing called systemic. Systemic could make one killer worse than another. Also, like when you think of, like, say, rape. I'm just going to talk about that for a second for the axiology. Rape and someone beating you. Being beaten and being raped, even if they cause the exact same pain, okay, that is an extrinsic pain. That means the immediate. Systemically, though, rape is worse because the psychological effects are going to last for the rest of the person's lifetime. So the systemic harm, or the systemic called devaluation, it's removing value of the person's well-being for a lifetime, makes that crime worse because of how it affects. So even if it was no pain in a rape, but pain in being beaten, the rape may be worse in an axiological evaluation sense because of the systemic harm of so long and maybe so catastrophized. In other words, it's like the shotgun effect. Something may start here, but if it goes into every aspect of your life as it spreads out, all of a sudden how you raise your kids is affected by your rape. How you go to school is affected by it. How you do, everything starts becoming affected. So because of that axiologically you can value judge something as more harm than something else.
Well, I'd like to ask Travis what you meant by your question. What do you tell a kid? I don't think you tell them exactly what Damien just went through.
Well, I'm saying.
To me, I just tell a kid, treat other people the way you'd like to be
Well, okay,
treated.
that's a golden rule,
that's
but
a golden
every
rule.
religion teaches that.
I know, and that's
But there's things that
doesn't
religion
mean it's
teaches
right.
I don't want them to know.
that's a good rule.
I put down in here when he was starting to answer that, humans have value,
Right.
are intrinsically valuable, have worth.
Yes, that's why I said.
I agree with
where
that
you start.
statement. I agree.
Yeah,
And the
that's-
thing is,
That's what I was
I
saying.
think
That's
the key.
you said that,
Even
well,
if you don't see
that's the
anything else
same.
you did.
that's right. That's what I was saying. I was just backing it up. But yes.
Well, that's
so-
the reason pantheism says God is good and man is good and there is no devil. So I can accept that. It's anything else that gets added to that I can't accept, which is theism and this idea that there's going to be a reward in the end, or you're going to come back with
And
good
that's
karma.
how I guess.
I don't believe that.
I see the difference between just religion telling you do unto others and an atheist saying do unto others. Because when a religious person says it, there are caveats, unspoken caveats. If you stay on the straight and narrow, if you don't piss your mom and dad off, if you don't piss God off, if.
Fear for everybody.
And see, that's the thing is, what he's saying axiologically is that this is intrinsic in us, scientific, it's evolutionary.
Yes.
It has to do with, I used to work at the zoo, and so we learned a lot about, and now I'm in this group, well, there must be some content. Anyway, and so what we learned about animals is that they have their own set of kind of morals, and they act like animals, sure, but they have empathy. Many of them have empathy. You can
There's
see
a guy
it.
that wrote a book, he's an expert on bees, I read it, I can't remember his name.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he goes through this.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, I agree.
Yes, exactly.
I
And
agree with
so,
what he says.
just because
So-
we
so I
say
wanna
the
address
same
the-
thing as a religious person doesn't mean we're coming from the same place.
I want to address that. Axiologically, we would not believe in the golden rule. The golden rule we consider a copper rule to us because it's not golden. Morality should not be what I want done to me, I do to others. Morality should be about their worth. No one should do something to you because you're worthy. Whether I like to be tortured, because if I say that if I was gay, I should be killed. So I will kill you because I know if I was gay, should be killed. That morality is not morality. That is morality looking at me, focusing inward instead of axiologically morality is focused
The other version of that is treat other people the way that they would want to be treated, which is different.
Well, right, yeah. But I'm just saying. So if you say treat people, I want to be treated, you're turning morality as inward instead of word. Morality is a behavioral subject. In other words, we don't usually think of morality if it's just us by ourselves. Are we doing something immoral? If it's just us and there's no God, of course. If it's just us and there's no God, are we being immoral? How we eat, how we behave, how we talk to ourselves, are we being immoral? Are we evil people if it's just us? Are we considered more, immoral beings if it's just us? And if it's that way, if we're going to judge that, then everyone here is immoral because everyone's probably put themselves down. Everyone's probably done something to themselves. That's really not what they mean by morality. Is a behavioral how you treat other people.
Okay,
And
I
so-
gotta put a stop to this. Are you finished with
I'm finished.
your questions and answers?
I'm waiting for the book.
Okay, sorry, Damien. I gotta keep going here. Okay,
I
Iris?
have a book on hold that I saw in the bookstore, and it looked really interesting. It's called This Idea Must Die. And it's a whole bunch of essays by people like Dawkins and Pinker and, I don't know,
Cool.
dozens of people. And it takes current ideas and questions whether they're not ready to be shelved and are outdated.
What a
Things that are
concept.
Still, really popular ideas.
Like trickle-down economics.
I mean, it's like
Yeah.
some of them are only one-page, things that people have written, but it's all from all different realms.
Do you think anyone believe that?
Sounds
really?
good.
Is that
Yeah.
by Brockman?
I haven't seen it.
It's by, well, since it doesn't really have an author, John Brockman put it together.
B-R-A-C-H?
B-R-O-C-K-M-A-N.
Oh, Brock.
He has a website, Edge.
Let me finish the title first, and then I'll stop.
Okay.
This idea must die, scientific theories that are blocking progress.
Ooh.
Sounds cool.
He puts out a question every year, and it's only by invitation, brilliant thinkers all
Oh,
over
I've
the
heard
world.
of this.
And he says, answer this question.
Whatever the question
And
is.
this question for the year was, what scientific idea needs to be retired? And he
Oh.
got answers from all over the world.
Oh, and that's what this book
That's
is
what this
about.
book contains.
Yeah,
It's
cool.
a fabulous.
Oh,
Go to the
yeah.
Edge, I'm sorry, I can't remember if it's edge.org or edge.com.
Edge.org.
Edge.org, okay,
Edge.org.
because there's an edge.com and
The
that's a
Guardian calls
fundamentalist.
it the world's smartest website.
Yeah, it's
Ooh.
And
fabulous,
the title
it's
was
fabulous.
what has, or
This idea
thank you.
must die.
World's what? What'd you say?
World's
smartest?
It's not the title, but it's been referred to as the world's smartest website.
Okay, good. All right, Iris, anything else?
No,
No?
I'm just waiting for it. It's on hold at the library,
Cool.
so.
I like it. Wendy?
I don't have anything to share.
Well, don't then.
Yeah,
The people who have things go first,
Yeah.
and then we'll get back to all the rest of you, okay? I've already forgotten your name.
Renee.
Renee, that's right, sorry. Well, yeah, of course it's right, because that's what your name is.
This week.
Treat. Alright, so I've been listening to podcasts and in order, chronologically. So I started like in 2008 on Reasonable Doubts, and I'm up to. I'm all up to 2012. Woohoo! And so there's this one. There's a couple that are coming up that I've actually listened to. I listen to them and then they go away, they disappear, and then and on the next one, but this one I've actually gone back to because when you have, there's all these different arguments against Christianity or God, in defense of their atheism, and rational arguments. And you're on the opposite extreme of, well, there is no argument because God's a rational idea in the first place.
Yeah.
One of the problems I'm having with, I'm trying to teach my kids about logical thinking and logical fallacies. And we're discussing logical fallacies, and we're applying them to different areas. And even once in a while,
Awesome.
I'll apply it to a religious idea. And my son came up with this argument. He said, well, just because the argument is fallacious doesn't mean that the idea was wrong. Which is,
It's true.
Which is true. Okay, so I'm trying to rethink some arguments on that. But yes. But the biggest problem I'm coming across is this one, and I didn't really have a name for it. until this podcast on 97, presuppositional apologetics.
Oh, yeah.
Presuppositionalism and presumption, I know, I'm naming a new word. Presupposition. Lists, yes, thank you. And,
Those who presume.
well, it's the argument that, of course, logic doesn't really matter. They don't try to argue their position from a point of rationalism or logic because they just say that you can't support God with rationalism. It's beyond rationality. I mean, so they're almost on the same, they're almost on the opposite extreme of where you are.
True.
But this is the problem when people like me have come to your door trying to tell you about the Bible.
Oh, you poor thing.
And you question it from God. Well, of course, God's self-evident.
It says right here.
And so the position is that God's self-evident, and that if you are denying God, then you're actually really lying to yourself. But of course, you really believe that God exists in your heart, and that you're just fooling yourself. And how do you argue against that? Because at that point, rationalizes. Yeah, I knew you. You knew he
I would say that.
You call Damien.
Yeah. Well, that would be, to me, that's a rationalist question. To me, what you feel without science can be very wrong.
Yeah.
Right now, you feel perception. Right now, you feel you're not moving. But any given point on the earth is actually moving over 1,000 miles an hour. But you don't feel it. So your sensation that you think is true, without science to validate it, can be completely false.
That's great.
So using that as an argument for anything is not evidence. I always tell people, very simple, faith as a method in the acquisition of knowledge is not worth believing in.
Well, Renee.
Here it is.
Let me get me feel.
You can write it down if you want.
Well, visual, so you have to
So
hear it with
faith as a method. In other words, something how you do things. Because that's what they're doing. You're saying faith produces evidence of God. So faith as a method in the acquisition of knowledge is not worth believing in. It is not a way to get knowledge. It is a way
You've
to...
already skipped over that.
Right.
You've already gone to the end, and I believe it, and so don't tell me I don't believe it.
Let me make this argument,
Okay.
and I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay, trap.
They say anything a scientist talks about that he cannot measure and cannot observe is just an opinion because he can't measure what's metaphysical.
So, see, I would say that you have to first start with what you're talking about. See, I define a rationalist is into defining terms.
Right.
What is nothing? And how would you know it's nothing? Because if you can evaluate that it is nothing, you've just given me the evaluation. That evaluation you're using right now to evaluate that a nothing is a nothing, then you can use that same evaluation to evaluate that your evidence is also nothing using your own evaluation.
This is it's a little bit complicated. Wait. Damien, just a second.
Quiet. What I would say.
I just want to say one thing.
What I would say.
Just a minute. When these people are on their journey, at the level that you're explaining stuff, even though many of us get it, they're not going to get it.
But he asked me a question though.
I
I
appreciate his
understand.
input.
But
It's just that
what it
a
just gave me
shitty
today
way-
is that if you start with the intrinsic value that every human being
Yes.
is of value,
Yes.
Worth,
now I need to
yeah.
go back and, or worth. Okay,
Worth.
that's probably
It's an
better.
easier word to
The thing is, I'm
understand.
trying to, I talk to people.
Let me think on that one.
So, I'm open to what he's
Yes.
saying because I'm past, I swallowed the red pill.
Some people say drink the Kool-Aid, but
Well, I'm trying to talk to people who are actually drinking the Kool-Aid right now. Who are really just looking at him like
Yeah.
And so, one of the arguments, it was like a part on one of our meetings years ago, and it was so important that they even had it in a written review thing, where, people become atheists because they want to do, because they want to live an immoral life.
no, I don't.
Oh, that was the.
That's a really-
Usually they have
That's a really
bad
common one.
It's a reproach.
But it is something along
I agree.
Argument.
But when I was a Unitarian, they would always use that, say, how do you behave good if you don't believe in a God? Well, because You don't want to be treated.
My argument against that is that, okay, I don't need to live forever in a paradise, or I don't need to go to heaven to do good. If you have to have that to be a good, then how?
I'm not wondering about your psyche.
You're only doing good because you're afraid that if you don't, you're gonna go to hell, then maybe. So
I posted that on my Facebook page. I said, you know, for all, not me, but someone was quoted as saying, you know, all of you
You're absolutely right.
people who say that the only reason that you're not an axe murderer is because of your belief in God makes us atheists feel real scared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh my effing God, is that the only reason?
Yeah, I would tell them, keep going to church.
The point of the podcast was that normal debate doesn't work with positionalists
No.
because they are already,
They've already
they're
decided.
starting from presumption. So how do you argue with something that you don't have common ground with? And so the whole there's actually two parts of their podcast about how to reason with them, or how to, because the common position that they're talking about is that basically you don't argue with them, it's a waste of time. But then that just emboldens them, because then they think, oh, see, I won the argument because they're cowards. They really.
Yeah, but once you get out of it, it won't matter what they think. You're still stuck listening to this.
Yeah, I just tell them,
Well-
I'm not going to Harry.
Because the truth is, and I can say this from a political point of view, no matter how much I try to argue, we shouldn't vote.
Well, I still think that it's still worth trying to argue, because you know, you don't know who's playing the devil's advocate that actually has doubts.
If it doesn't wear you down.
Yes.
But you can make the assumption, I think, that you're going in there with an unlikelihood of convincing.
Oh,
And if you know
Well, they
that.
gotta be ready to. They have to be.
Absolutely.
They have to.
I think you'd do better stepping back from the existence of God, proving or not proving, and looking at some of the beliefs they have.
Attacking the doctrine definitely came first.
Yeah,
I mean, my doctrines fell apart before my belief in God.
that's what I mean.
Yes.
That's where you go after them.
Yes.
And look up the Talpiot tomb and say, okay, you say God bodily rose from the grave, but they've discovered his tomb in Talpiot, Jerusalem, his bone box with his bones.
Okay, David, you had a comment, you kept being outshouted.
Well, I was just gonna say that I would believe, probably speculate, that all religious people at times have doubts about God. And one of the things that studies show is that the more people doubt, the more certain they tend to become, because they get defensive. They want to defend it.
Exactly.
Mother Teresa, I thought this was interesting. Mother Teresa expressed in a letter to Monsignor that she had serious doubts that God really existed. And this Monsignor, or whatever, official in the church said, well, that just proves how strong your faith is, because you have great doubt. And I thought,
No, that's loyalty.
if you have great doubt in something, how can you have great faith? To me, that's bullshit. But that's what he said.
Logic, and that's what they teach.
But
these
nobody
people.
really acts in their life as if God exists. Nobody. You wouldn't buy insurance. You wouldn't do all kinds of... No.
I've had people...
You wouldn't do all kinds of things if you really, truly believe that God exists. You would kill yourself to go to heaven.
I mean, when my family who actually have...
I'm just
they're
aware
in their
that
70s and have no
everybody in their
retirement because they are so sure their Armageddon's coming.
I know it. They're going to kill us all. Yeah.
And they're not worried about global warming because they think that's the second coming. Let's bring it on.
Is anybody else watching the show called Dig?
It helps.
Fascinating show.
Yeah, I like it.
I'll talk about it when I get to my... Yeah, are you finished? I'm sorry, I interrupted you. No, okay.
If she is, I want to read something that she said just a minute ago.
Okay.
That's really
Okay, everybody back.
She said,
Education.
if I got you right, you said contempt for the doctrine came before I lost my faith. And I think that's a brilliant observation. And I just want to be sure everybody heard it.
The doctrine fell apart before my faith, my belief in God.
God, yeah, right,
Okay.
right. Yeah, my
The doctrine,
faith in
the
God.
doctrine
Get fed up
definitely,
with your religion.
the doctrine.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times you don't know what to substitute for it,
Well, that
so you don't let go of it.
like, my whole worldview just collapsed. Like, oh
Right.
God.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I
contempt
value
for
anything
Well,
now?
it wasn't
Value-
content.
what do I base
It
it on?
wasn't, I didn't use the word content.
Oh,
It was,
sorry.
I don't,
Sorry, I thought it was, I misquoted you then.
That's what it sounded like to me, so. But it's interesting because a lot of people leave their religion, but they still are searching for the God. What's gonna be the
Well,
replacement?
You end up redefining what God is.
Yes.
That's
Or
what
you,
I'm doing.
or you go to a place where you call I'm spiritual.
oh, it's like,
You know what I mean?
When
And
you can no longer define,
you can't define the thing, the big guy in the sky anymore, but you can't let go and say, oh, I don't need it at all. I mean, that's the journey we talk about.
Yeah.
We all went through the, well, I didn't, I was just sort of, I married him and became an atheist. Anyway.
If we're, how are we going to survive if we can't find common ground? I mean, are we going to win the debate?
well, one of the things they talked about is that with the presumption.
Sure, no less.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's basically, you have to really question their assumptions. So you really, you
Yes.
just have to keep questioning.
Well,
them. You
that's what he
actually-
said.
You
That's
actually
what
have to put them.
Define
you
that,
have-
define that,
You
define that.
have to put them, they're used to being on the offensive, so you have to put them on the defensive
Exactly.
and keep them there. They're not used to being there.
No. And they'll get
so
mad at you probably.
And that's what's uncomfortable, because I'm like you, I usually like to persuade from a position of common ground, and there is none there.
Yeah, exactly.
So you
Exactly.
actually are gonna have to get bold
Yeah.
and actually
What do you
question
call
their
that, David?
assumptions.
What?
The,
And
No
that's
common ground to start a
no, but,
discussion.
yeah, you have a term where you say it's the assumption that there's a harmony, something,
Oh, there's some theory of the false assumption of harmony where you say if two people can just talk long enough, they'll agree on something.
yeah, exactly.
You can't agree on abortion, you know, you can't agree.
Republicans approved it. You can't do that. I'm sorry.
Okay, now,
What I was gonna say was, one thing that I do, I don't, see, I always tell people that I don't know apologetics. I don't try to. I don't go to your fantasy, I require you to come back to my reality. I require everyone's, I'm a rationalist. We're gonna come back to we're gonna talk in my realities, that's how I tell people.
Okay.
I have a comment on this all because I've been in religion a long time and still live with someone in it. You're assuming that these are reasonable people that want to be reasonable and believe in anything rational. They don't.
Well, that's.
That isn't even
Exactly.
in their head. They
Exactly.
could care less how rational you are, what you believe
Exactly.
about the
Yes,
natural
yes.
world, whether you think that we all evolved, whether we did. They don't care.
right,
They
exactly.
really don't.
Right,
And I
but just,
don't
just,
believe in this harmony
wanna
thing
think.
either.
but I have a degree in psychology, and just like in psychology, if I were to do an intervention on an addict, they don't believe that not drinking or not doing drugs is a reasonable thing. In fact, usually they're high and they're not being reasonable at all. But you still bring them back to the real world of, look at who you're hurting. Look at what it's happening to your life.
Yeah, right.
So I still say that
Sure.
whether, for me personally, I'm saying it doesn't matter what doctrine, it doesn't matter what thing. The real world is, there's real world consequences, just like you were saying, or someone was saying about, are you buying insurance? The real world, no matter what fantasy they branch off of, there's always a real world they're living in, and even philosophers, only 4.8% believe that the real world is probably not true. So most people in general, though, believe some form of reality.
Okay,
They
Rich,
like to create their own.
So,
Rich.
so, gosh, yeah, there were other points that were brought up that I'm trying to incorporate. So, yeah, you will often meet people who are not rational, who are arguing from this crazy place out in left field. But eventually, you'll come up to people who do have fairly solid arguments, who are delivering them in a lucid, constructed fashion. So if you see any of the debates with William Lane Craig, he brings up some good arguments that are difficult to argue because they're at such a high level. But what's worked for me is to address the line of reasoning. So what I've seen is that in religion, whatever the aspect of it is, the same line of reasoning based in faith and the individual experience that may have led someone to believe that Joseph Smith is the key component of this church, and he found some plates in upstate New York, is the same. With that same line of reasoning, you could say this is why Thor is real, or this is why pink unicorns are real.
It's not evidence.
Or the serpent god Quetzalcoatl is real. And that at least encourages your opponent's speculation about, wait, I need to come back with a more lucid response as to why my particular argument is accurate.
Yeah.
And it's a bit flippant, but I do sort of appreciate the quote I've heard. I want to say it was Bertrand Russell. It could have been someone else. Please correct me. But that which is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
That's Christopher Hitchens.
I know he said it. I thought he had gotten it from somewhere, but
said it first.
but he is great.
Okay, David.
Well, I want to address what Travis said, that he's in the midst of redefining God, and I guess I find this notion of defining or redefining God somewhat worrisome.
Well, it's worrisome to me because I have to deal with this book called the Bible.
I think you
In your head.
Well, not only that, I mean, I'm going through and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to throw this out, I'm going to throw this out. And what am I going to have when I get done?
Why don't you read the
You're
Jefferson
going to have
Bible?
Jefferson.
The Jefferson
I
Bible.
have it. He basically, and I agree with him. I read the Synoptic Gospels just for what he said and what he did. I have no issue with that.
Okay.
I have issues with everything else that's written in
But
that
I guess what I find strange is that people want to somehow hold on to this word God, even if they redefine it in a way that has no relationship to what traditionally it was or what anyone else thinks. It becomes this totally meaningless phrase because it's redefined by millions of people to mean a personal thing to them. It loses any kind
And
of
he's asking, really, why do you
reason-
even need
okay.
it?
So why use the word God? Just give it
Okay,
up.
well, I will, okay. I've been going to New Thought, okay? It's kind of along the lines of what Damien say. It's God is within.
See, I don't believe
That's
that
not true.
either.
I know.
Get rid of it.
I know, but the thing I have objections to them is their placebo medicine and, what's the other term I called?
What's it called? New Thought?
It's called New Thought. It's been around 100 years. But it's a mix of Buddhism and Christianity. It's religion.
Yeah.
But it does use science to some degree.
And so, you're still on the journey, and many of us have already gotten over all
Well,
of
I need
that.
to
And I
ask-
respect the fact that you're still on the journey. If many of us are no longer on that journey, so that's why we're kind of skeptical, like, why don't you just give it up? What's the problem? But we know.
What do I replace it with?
And we didn't.
Okay. Then do you believe in social Darwinism? Do you believe in...
I believe in the humanist creed. If you read it, it
Okay,
makes a lot of sense.
I have read it. I have no problem with the
Okay.
creed number 2. I do have some issues with number 3.
Well, that's part of your journey. But I guess that's what I'm trying to say is, many of us don't feel we need to replace it with anything. This is a replacement for God. Having these kinds of intellectual discussions and having your mind open to the possibility of other things besides, well, I need something.
Well, when I was
what-
a Unitarian Universalist, the first thing they ask you is, how would you describe yourself?
Okay.
And I would say I was a religious humanist. Okay. But when the Humanist Manifesto number 3 came out, it was very negative towards religion. And I was willing to redefine the terms and compromise the terms.
I see. So you still feel like there's a religion out there
I don't know.
but that's why I say you're on a journey.
Yeah, I know I'm on a journey. I mean,
Okay.
it's just, I need to understand, where should I start? I'm going to look at Damien's suggestion. Every human has worth. Let me think about that, let me read
So,
on that.
so if you want to read on that, a free thing you can read. That's only one. It's still a little hard, but it's called formal. It's an article. It's called Formal Axiology: Another Victim in Religion's War on Science.
Oh, there's no doubt, as a scientist, I have a lot of issues.
But I mean that's an article title.
Yeah, I know. They're already trying to demonize
It's called
formal axiology. That doesn't surprise me.
You know, it's called Formal Axiology: Another Victim in Religion's War on Science. That's a title, and it's about 8 pages. And it gives you a lot of questions you asked me about axiology. It explains some of them. Some might be a little hard, but it's still, even if you only got 50%, you would understand axiology 100% more than you understand now.
Okay.
Who's it by or where do you find it?
Okay,
Let me just finish.
I can't remember who it's by. It's too hard to read on my
Let's just
phone.
finish whatever they're doing here, because you won't be heard if they.
It's not blowing it up.
Okay, I won't be able to read it.
Okay, Al.
If you get it to me later, I'll.
One more
put it in.
thing, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, see, it won't blow up that much more than that.
In religious communities, there is community. And I value community. How do you what do you have that's equivalent in humanism, atheism, whatever?
Right here.
Well, okay.
This is my community.
But this community meets once a month.
There's a
dozens
Okay, I'll be there.
Oh, oh, here it is.
We see each other all the time.
It's by this guy right here.
And if you don't see anything, you can like start your own group.
Penny and.
Well, I mean, I keep,
He's your axiologist.
Well, he's one of them.
Okay,
Where
wait,
is it?
wait, we're not focusing on one
It's online. It's called
person anymore.
Academic EDU.
Tuesday and Saturday.
You get what you needed?
Are you done with?
I think so.
Okay,
Please put her
now.
down on Google.
Al.
A multi-part question. We seem to essentially agree that people who believe what we don't believe like it that way, and they don't want to hear from us. How's it going to work out? Are we going to somehow just going to fall away with the onslaught of rational thought and
What is it?
the latest philosophy?
What is it that has to be worked out?
Pardon?
What is the it in that sentence?
The question is, what do we need to do? How if we don't find common ground, how's it going to end?
Yeah, earlier you asked that question. If we don't find common ground, what's going to? I'm going to address it when my turn comes.
Okay.
okay.
So, are you finished? Are you finished, Trevor?
I have to go actually to the
Okay.
meeting, so sorry.
Yeah, I'll see you next time.
Travis, that's been a fabulous subject.
Joanne.
Fabulous.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
You want me to give you?
Gary.
Yeah.
I'm just here listening.
Good. I bet you're getting an
Yeah,
earful.
this used to be a book club, and so we bring books or whatever.
Or whatever.
I'm bringing another podcast.
Okay.
I've been reading a whole bunch of stuff and listening to a bunch of podcasts. And one of the places that I've been finding really good podcasts is On Being with Krista Trippett. The Big Questions of Meaning is the subtitle that's in there. And just today, the one that turned up was a fascinating discussion between surrounding, on what marriage is itself and rethinking because of this situation today where we're talking about gay marriage and all that discussion. It's between a gay guy who, at about the age of 8, realized, I'm never going to be able to be married, and it just really bummed him out. And a guy who started as concerned about, in the 80s to 90s, seeing so much disintegration in our society and identified it as disintegration in our families, and became, I forget what his group was, but it was some kind of a family-focused thing. There are several of those out there. And by working with this other guy, he began to realize that there was a whole lot more. He turned his own thinking around tremendously. Now they're working together to get people who come from separate worlds that are opposed to each other to meet and talk. And one of the key ideas that came out of this one,
Oh, I'd be right back.
this is just entitled The Future of Marriage. David Blankenhorn was the family guy, and Jonathan Rausch, the gay guy, who came into this dialogue. One of the things, see if I just lost it, hang on. This happens all the time.
You're not alone.
That's okay.
Yes, please, check.
Which one is your glass?
One of the things
That if we go into any discussion thinking we understand where the other guy came from, without actually understanding it, we can't convince each other of anything. And one of the focuses of their dialogue has been, I want to understand how I disagree with you. And to do that, we have to stop and do a lot of listening. That's what I meant when I said, I think what I've been looking at recently and bringing to the table today speaks to your question of how are we going to do anything. If we are able to stop, pull back, and listen, and engage someone else in listening, then there is hope that even with this anger and violence that goes on between groups, there is hope that we can resolve it.
I just don't.
But if not, if we can only get so far as to realize, I'm not with you, I disagree, but not able to really get into what is it we disagree about. So let's talk. Help me understand what you're saying so I know what I disagree with, and that's their particular approach. So it's just one other tool. And so I thought, as opposed to a book, in this case it would be a podcast that I would bring as a resource to the table. And this, I think this woman, just to give you a little bit more about On Being, I think she had a different title for this until not too long ago, I think. And it was more of a religious thing. And I think now she's eased further away from that. But she does an interesting thing. She interviews important thinkers, scientists, anything from nuclear physicists to astrophysicists and brain surgeons and artists and poets and authors, but people who have been around the block a few times and can think and are articulate. But she always starts with the question, was there anything, what was religion about, if it was even there, in your childhood growing up? And of course, by these ages, people who are my age or in their 40s or whatever, lots of them have moved away from it, like a lot of us have. But they know that it was something in their background that influenced them, and still gives them some piece, often, of their perspective, or helps them understand somebody else's perspective. And I've been finding it's very interesting that even with people who are totally away from any religion, many of them will say, I wasn't raised with any, my parents weren't, or my parents were, but I didn't. But knowing that that piece is out there in our culture so pervasively, I find a very interesting way for her to start her interview. Just because that's there, and then if it drops and settles and never goes anymore, great, but you know where they came from.
Okay.
And so I find her stuff interesting. So the site is onbeing.org. And she does hour-and-a-half interviews with these folks and then distills them down to about a 50-minute podcast.
Cool.
That you can either download that or you can listen to a whole uncut interview, whatever you like. So that's a resource that I think is valuable.
Okay.
I've listened to it, I really like it.
Yeah. So are you finished?
I am.
David, you had something to say? And it's
Well,
also
the
your
first thing I
turn.
wanted to say is that what you were looking for before is called the myth of hidden harmony, and I've only seen it in one little article.
That's right, the myth of hidden harmony.
But I think it's really important concept because there's this notion that if you sit down, and it's referring to what Gary said, and listen hard to someone, and they listen hard to you, that eventually you will find a common ground. There are things you're never going to find a common ground on. Either a person, you know, you believe in abortion or you don't. You believe in Muhammad did this or you don't. There is going to be, I mean, getting to Alan's question, I have serious doubts that the world as we know it is going to exist much longer. I think
I do too.
humanity's in trouble. I think civilization is in trouble. I think the ignorant are taking over the world and they're outbreeding the intelligent. We need more
Neil
education.
deGrasse Tyson.
We need more education, and that's the start of things, and we need critical thinking, and it just doesn't exist
No.
very much, and we need to end poverty. So I don't think the future of the world looks that good. I'm
And
glad I'm an old guy.
I think also each of us finds their own way in dealing with this. Alan sounds like he wants to sit down and have head-to-head conversations and somehow find this hidden harmony. Mine is political.
Mary and I,
I get involved politically, and I figure if I can at least change the laws under which I live, and that I am not being run by someone's religious beliefs, no matter how much they really believe it, that's not the secular constitution that I believe, I know, that the founders created for us. So I get involved politically. I'm
rationally,
big T, big time.
rationally, I think there's a very high probability that we're going to kill ourselves off.
Yes.
Mary and I are in agreement on that.
Are not?
They are.
But
Oh,
you know,
are.
she said, her basic, well, she does a lot of volunteer work. Just do what you can to help people
Yeah.
out in the meantime. That doesn't quite make it for me. Gotta
And like I
try to
said,
figure
some
out
people do
something
it
to do.
individually, by volunteering, by changing that one child's life, the mind of one child or one family that you know. I do it politically, and other people do it like having these meetings. That was Wendy's way of sort of fighting back against the whole thing, and she created this. So there are many opportunities.
The
for each
problem
of us.
is that for the first time or in human history, and we have the capacity to destroy the world as
Yes,
we know
we
it.
do. Like
And we
global
have
warming.
people in charge who have power who are working to do that out of either ignorance or just out of selfishness or greed or whatever. There will be people in the future for a long time, yes, but they may be mutants, they may be nuclearized, they may live on a South Sea island. But the prospects of not ruining the economy, not ruining the environment, not having a
Right.
nuclear war
Right.
are growing slimmer and slimmer. I don't want to be negative, but human beings in their
Too
own
late, Dave.
in their own nature have the seeds
Yes.
of their own destruction.
Yes,
If
they
they
do.
can build things big enough and have things global enough, they're dumb enough to do it.
That's why we gotta vote the bonds out.
We just can't
So tell
do
us
it.
about your book.
Okay,
You all need to.
that's my negative speech for the day.
Thank you.
Need to hear some of my classmates from Richmond.
What I wanna ask, is anyone here a Scientologist? Okay. Did anyone watch Going Clear on television?
On the HBO.
I've heard a lot about it.
I've heard about it. Well, he's got the book.
I want to talk about the book Going Clear. Alan will jump into this because his daughter is all into this crap.
See the author.
The author's Lawrence Wright. They had a great TV program about it. But this is perhaps the world's or America's most recent so-called religion. And the question is, to me, is it a religion? Which leads to the question of what the hell is a religion? Because that's all over the map too. Everything gets back to definitions eventually. But interestingly enough, the church claims they have 10 million members, but ex-members and ex-leaders and other people say they have about 50,000. So there's a lot, but what they do have is beaucoup money. They have lots and lots of money because basically they strip it out of all the people who take their courses or get involved
And
with
they
them.
don't have to pay taxes.
Alan can tell you stories about them. They're very controlling. It's like a totalitarian brainwashing state. They put people in the so-called hole. They do things that only the Chinese used to do. And they get away with it, and they have a tax exemption. The main reason they have a tax exemption is because they attacked the IRS. Because the IRS for many decades says you're no more than a commercial enterprise and wacky as all hell to boot anyway.
Right.
But they made war on the IRS because if the IRS didn't give them their tax exemption, they would have gone bankrupt. They had about 15 million in assets and 1 billion in tax liabilities. So what they did, they started having people follow IRS agents and harass them. They had all their people they could get to call into the IRS and tie up their phone lines so they couldn't get any work done. They really went after them. They made war on the IRS. And finally, the IRS commissioner sat down and talked to the head of the church and said, all right, we're going to give you your tax exemption, lay off of us. So now they're tax exempt. But to me, the question is, what is a religion in the first place? Buddhism has, in its purest form, no supernatural nothing. In other forms it does. And Confucianism has no supernatural anything. Humanism isn't. Is atheism a belief system? What makes something a religion in this country? It's what the IRS says it is. That's what makes it a religion. It's a grown-up cult. It's whatever you want to call it. But to me, what makes a belief system a religion? You've got communism, Nazism, all kinds of belief systems, but some get to be called religions, and they're not consistent in what they believe. They don't all have supernatural figures.
Tell them about the founder.
The what? Oh, L. Ron Hubbard.
He
He's
is
a fabulous science fiction writer, and that's how he could make up a religion so easily, but he says human beings are the composition of spirits called thetans, cast off from the bodies of space aliens detonated 75 million years ago in volcanoes on the planet Tigikiak, also known as Earth, by a galactic warrior named Xenu.
This sounds like a science fiction.
Well, he was a science fiction writer, yeah.
Star Wars.
If I were ever to use the term evil.
Yeah,
Okay.
but what he did and why it became popular for a while was it was an alternative to psychiatry. That's why the Scientologists hate psychiatry, because it's an alternative way of trying to get your head straight.
Yeah.
Well, they believe that you have past experiences called engrams, that's their word, that's L. Ron Hubbard's word, that are feelings you have of pain and torment and anxiety from past events, which is what everybody knows anyway.
And everybody has.
And everybody has. And they say if you can get rid of these engrams, you can become what they call a clear, which I don't think even exists. Nobody even is like that, a clear. Everyone's hung up on something. But the beauty of it is, which, you could do it with someone else. You do these audits with a co-counselor, and you tell them your bad experiences, they tell you theirs, and then they hook you up to this phony little semi-lie detector called an e-meter, which costs money, of course. And that measures whether you're really getting nervous about what you're saying and telling the truth or not. And somehow it works for some people. Tom Cruise loves it, John Travolta, several other stars. They have a celebrity center where they kiss everyone's ass who's a celebrity because the celebrities are pulling these people in. But the fact is, once you get pulled in, and Alan can tell you about his daughter, they start sucking money out of you and they start interfering with your life. When his daughter was in a coma from a near fatal accident, here comes someone from Scientology to tell the doctors how to treat her.
Right.
Talk about control.
Right.
It's unbelievable control. People have this need for someone to tell them what to do that's so bad they just buy into this stuff. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on, but they're a religion. According to the government, they're a religion. You could call it a con game, but...
Clearwater, Florida, where Mary and I, my wife and I, commuted seasonally before we figured out that we were too old and too poor to do that, is now becoming the national headquarters for Scientology.
Oh, really?
My daughter, by the way, is pretty much detached from Scientology.
Now she is?
Yeah.
Good. That's progress since I last talked to you.
Because it's always been the East Coast headquarters, Oh, the stories I could tell you about these armies of people of all ages and all kinds in their uniforms of 6 or 7 different kinds marching up and down the streets of downtown Clearwater, Florida. It is truly a military organization. And,
Yeah, they got uniforms too.
and you don't want to cross it.
Okay. My next, anybody else want to say? Okay, I just started reading this book called The Christian Nation. And it is a, thank God, fantasy on what would have happened had Sarah Palin been the vice president and what's his butt died in office.
Okay.
Okay. And, you know, people think,
The Christian what?
Nation.
oh, the
Nation.
Christian Nation, I'm trying to get back to where I can get to the first page of it. But it's a very scary read. And the thing is that people don't take this seriously. You know, all the things that the Republicans in the South and the Marco Rubio and all these other people are saying, they're telling you who they are. They're not kidding. And people just go, oh, they're just one off. They're just one guy. Oh, he's just crazy. Not when you see the totality of it, and that's what this book, the point it makes, which is they told you what they were going to do and you voted for them anyway. Fascinating book.
Who's the author?
I'm looking. I'm not really technically savvy here, and I know I could go back to the first page, but did anybody read the Margaret Atwood book?
The Handmaid's
The Handmaid's Tale.
Yes.
Okay, same kind of thing. That was another fantasy, thank God, that talked about what would have happened had the Christian fundamentalists become the government, and how it haunts me still. I listened to it in the car a few years ago, and it just haunts me. Talk about the way they treat women. Oh my God.
Well, let me just add, I find it's really disturbing that when religion gets into government, it's really disturbing that during George Bush's term, Donald Rumsfeld would give him presentations on how to conduct the war, and he always started them with quotes from the Bible. Because George, even though he was told not to use the word crusade, always saw what he was doing as a crusade. Of course, a crusade to get oil for Dick Cheney, but a crusade against those ugly non-Christians.
Yes.
And to me, when you start having people making decisions based on biblical, those old stories that were, myths, leading the government and planning a war based on this stuff from the Bible, it's really, really threatening to all of us.
And then, well, here we have our AU hat on, Americans United hat. But if any of you want to follow us on Facebook, we do have a Facebook page where you can, I'm the one who posts everything I can find about the outrages going on in the country.
And your next meeting for AU is in May?
May 20th, yeah. In Bellevue Library.
I gotta get you a cards, you need to renew, is what has to happen.
Well, I'm one already in California. It's not.
You need to just
No, I see your
affiliate.
renewal date in California.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I can see you
don't
because you're in my area now.
Okay.
But you're associated with them.
Yes.
So I'm willing to,
Oh, whatever.
Just
I'll pay
affiliate.
again. Whatever doesn't matter to me.
yeah, it's $25 a year.
You're welcome to
Okay,
come
it's
with
Frederick
Yeah, definitely.
with a C, Frederick Rich, Gary,
Uh-huh.
okay?
Frederick,
So, Rich,
D-E-R-I-C, Frederick, R-I-C-H.
right.
Okay.
Okay, what they said they would do is the very first chapter. What is clear to me is that they did what they said. This morning, Adam pulled from the wall of old-fashioned gray metal file cabinets a tattered manila folder called 2006, filled with clippings. This is 2029. In the folder, I found a small glossy pamphlet from a group promoting Christian political action. An affable-looking man stares back at me from the cover. Inside is a letter dated November 2006, just a year after I started my law firm. Quote, When the Christian majority takes over this country, there will be no satanic churches, no more free distribution of pornography, no more talks of rights for homosexuals. After the Christian majority takes control, pluralism will not be seen as immoral and evil, and you're already seeing this, and the state will not permit anybody the right to practice evil. And they get to decide what the definition of that is. And so, I mean...
And that was a real letter, probably.
It was 2009, after President McCain's sudden death, that my best friend Sanjay first explained to me that behind the public face of Christian right was a strange mix of fundamentalist theologies, all different and at odds with one another, but aligned in supporting the election of politicians, yes, who believe they speak to and for God, aligned in seeking to have their religiously based morals adopted into law, and aligned in rejecting the traditional notion of a wall of separation between church and state. Of these fundamental theologists, the most extreme and in many ways the most influential were Dominionism and Reconstructionism. Dominionism, Sanjay explained, holds that Christians need to establish a Christian reign on earth before Jesus returns for the second coming. Dominionists also believe that Christians in general have a God-given right to rule. I mean, these people are telling you this right now. Right now. But more particularly in preparation for the second coming of Christ, that Christians have the responsibility to take over every aspect of political and civil society. And Dominionism is often associated with a fringe theology called Reconstructionism, which emphasizes that this reconstructed Christian-led society should be governed strictly by biblical law. What had once been a fringe of exotic beliefs and schismatic sects had entered the religious mainstream of America. So, I mean, it goes on, and I highly recommend it because, again, I told you, I fight politically. And this, I pay a lot of attention to what's going on in the world of American politics. And these people are out there telling us every frickin' single day what they'll do. They say I'll do it, and we all go, nah.
And every time they get control of a state, they do it.
They do
Show
it.
to us.
Well,
Wisconsin or...
This gets back to a
Yes.
fundamental thing that's true of probably most countries. People are uncomfortable talking about religion.
yeah.
And you can have a nutty notion that's not religious, people attack it. If it's a nutty notion that's religious, it's like, oh, I don't want to attack your
Right.
belief system. So those kind of nutty notions get a lot of, honor and whatever you might want to call it.
I want to add something to that. Another thing that I track are these Supreme Court decisions and the logic behind them. And the Hobby Lobby case, where an individual corporation has religious freedom now to deny people things. And if you read the actual Supreme Court brief or language or whatever, they said, well, we ruled in favor because, if people really, 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 really believe something, who are we to say they shouldn't? Do you know the consequences of that embedded in our laws? Everybody can say, oh, well, I have a really, really, I believe in Tinkerbell. Okay, it's so scary, people, wake up. Okay, that's my political
There's a little
rant for
passion
today.
there. Yay.
And then the other one I was going to tell you about is Dig. There's a show called Dig, and you can probably get it online now. It's a USA program. And it's about a dig under the Dome of the Mount
Jerusalem.
in Jerusalem. And it traces these two police people, one is Israeli and one is American, as they're uncovering this big scheme that is the Christian fundamentalists and the Jewish fundamentalists coming together in this place and basically starting Armageddon. And they say, they had this young boy who was raised from, childhood or when he was born, and he's going to be the
High priest.
the high priest. And then they got some heifer, the red heifer, that apparently it fits into this whole thing. I highly recommend it because this show takes exactly like this. What the hell would really happen if they got what they wanted? Like there's this Christian guy, there's a Christian organization called KUFI, Christians United for Israel. And the pastor is Hagee,
John
H-A-G-E-E. Hagee? Yeah. And he goes over there to Israel and they want to start the end of the world. And you know, the funny thing is, you know what? The Jews won't see what hit them. I mean, really, they're like kowtowing to all the Jews over there, but really the whole point about Hagee is, once this happens, you all have to be Christians or, you know, you're out in the street, or we'll get raptured. Whatever the hell. So, I mean,
Is there anything else?
you don't even need science fiction.
Yes, this is for you.
Thank you.
This is yours. Thank you.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, I think that's probably the end of the meeting. Bye.